Welcome back to another exciting episode of Spitball Media Podcast. We're spitting out the top entertainment stories this week, as we do each and every Thursday night. My name is John Draper. Shaheen has the night off. He is not going to be here tonight, but of course, the king of the Midwest is here. The mayor of Burleytown, B. Show Brian. B. Show Brian, is it cold out there in the Midwest?
No, it was like 50 today, but now the fog from the movie The Fog rolled in, so kids are probably going to have the day off tomorrow.
Oh, Jesus Christ. It's going to be scary town. The Fog, the remake, has been on a cable a lot, and it's pretty terrible.
Is it? See, I hear people.
I don't like it.
I've seen the first few minutes and turned it off, but then other people say it's pretty good. So,
you know what it's most noteworthy for is it has Smallville Superman on there. He's like the male lead. It's Tom Wellington, if I'm not mistaken, is his name.
Yeah, I've always stayed away from that. I'm not a huge fan of those Carpenter remakes because they never live up to the hype. So
no, generally they don't. But we'll try to live up to the hype this week. First and foremost, shout out to Shah, of course. He's sorry he can't be here tonight. But if you're joining us for the first time, you don't really get the full show. You get we give you a show, but then we do another show right after, exclusively for Patreon, each and every week, don't we, B Show? And that's only available over at patreon.com/Spitball Media.
Yes, every week we do a bonus afterwards. We watch some trailers, talk about extended horror movie stuff. So if you like that and you want more Spitball Media, if you want more spit, asking you shall receive.
If you want more spit on it.
Exactly. So head over to patreon.com/Spitball Media. And not just that, but thousands of hours of content, bonus shows. I'm putting stuff up. You mentioned you might do something, but I don't want to hold you to that.
Yes. Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
I think it sounded like a good idea. So we're trying to work some more stuff in for you guys this year in 2024.
And it's only $5, and you get well over 1,000 hours of exclusive content going back to the Break the Apocalypse days, all the question and answer bonus shows, which are a very popular thing around here, which we have a link up currently right now for the February version, since it is a short month. I mean, B-Show, it's such an affordable premium program package.
Yeah, Joe Punches just mentioned it's a lot cheaper than your loaf of bread and your ketchup.
My loaf of bread. Definitely not my ketchup. I can tell you that. But you can only find all that exclusive content with a cool cast of castaways hanging out over at Spitball Media Podcast. Patreon.com/Spitball Media. $5. A loaf of bread is good, but after you eat it, you feel really bloated. You feel like you made a mistake. Not with this $5, B-Show. It doesn't feel like you made any mistake at all.
No, like Cousin Eddie said, it's a gift that keeps on giving the whole year. So better than the Jelly of the Month Club, though. So yeah, go over and check it out.
Jelly of the Month Club. I love the Jelly of the Month Club.
Someone got my dad a certificate one year because he's a big Griswold fan.
Oh,
so up on his office wall, he's got Jelly of the Month on there. So
one of my kids, I forget which one, got me the sock club, but you get a cool pair of socks every month, and I loved this gift so much, and they forgot to cancel it, and it kept coming after a year. And then my wife blew up my spot and told them, you got to cancel that. I just kept getting socks every month, like a free pair of socks.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. Oh, it's good.
Speaking of clothes, what's up with us tonight? We switched our fucking wardrobes. You're wearing flannel. I'm wearing a long sweater.
I know. I don't know why. I just felt like wearing red today. I felt like wearing red, B-Show.
My sock.
I always coordinate. Look at the size of those feet. I always coordinate with the socks.
I love that, man.
But thanks to everybody who keeps the light on in this place, hanging out at Patreon. We really appreciate it. And we got a cool bunch of people chilling in the chat right now, as always. Let's give them some shout outs. We got Joe Punches, or Chris Matthews. Hold on. Who was he saying? Oh, who mentioned my loaf of bread? Was it Joe Punches?
Yes.
Of course, Terrell is in there, and Kevco TV. Hey, thanks, everybody. We started a little early tonight. Yes, better the fog than the mist, Terrell says, B-Show. Definitely better the fog than the mist. Slave Cheeks is chilling. Marquise is chilling. Unbelievable. But wow, yeah, what you guys are talking about, burning rectums in their Slave Cheeks? What in God's name is going on in that chat? Oh, Chris Matthews says, I wish there was a hot sauce of the month club.
I'll pass.
Oh my God. But thank you guys for chilling. We really appreciate it. And Rich Dow is chilling in there. Oh, I'm going to be talking to Rich, I think, next week. Rich Dow.
What's up, Rich?
Shout out to Rich Dow. He's going to be interviewing me next week. We had a little chat today. He's a Pittsburgh gentleman. I love Pittsburgh. Rich, here's a fun fact you won't know about me. Pittsburgh is one of my favorite cities I've ever toured in of all time. I had such a good time in Pittsburgh. I think I was there twice. Although we got lost coming back in the 90s and it took like a day to get back to New York City, which is not, that gives you an idea of what the 90s was like for me, Rich Dow. You know, that gives me an idea. Oh, Chris Matthews, you're moving in July. Oh, look at that. Flaming hot Cheetos gives me acid reflux, so I stopped eating them. Yeah, I had a really funny experience last weekend just because we're all sharing. So I got really fucked up on bourbon and edibles, if you can believe that, Bisho.
No way.
Yeah,
Imagine
I
that.
did. I did. Yeah, on Saturday. And I had some sausage. I had like a sweet sausage and a hot sausage. I had all these sausage and peppers. And at midnight, high as fuck, drunk as fuck, I made sausage and peppers. And then I had two brioche hot dog buns.
Oh
And I
my
just
god.
made, and I got some French fries. And I just made this whole thing. And the next day, that shit flew out of me like Johnny Blaze. Like it was just like it was asses of fire the entire day. I will never do that again, like in the history of ever. I learned a valuable lesson. But yeah, I really got to stop eating after. I never really enjoy it, but my impulse is so strong to eat. Like I just can't, like, I don't know how to stop.
Yeah, when you're loaded and it gets to be like after 11 or 12, it always seems like a good idea. Like I'm
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
everybody does this, but around here it's popular to hit up Taco Bell when you're drunk.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I mean, it's wild. But oh, Rich Dow says the Pittsburgh infrastructure was made by five drunk 5 year olds. Oh my God. Well, listen, we have a shit ton of stuff we want to get to tonight. First and foremost, I want to talk about a couple movies I saw over the weekend, B show. I finally got to the movies. I went to a local theater that was closing. It was actually quite depressing. It was a local theater here, not far from where we live. The last two are closed indefinitely as of tomorrow.
wow.
They don't look like they're going to be reopened. One of them is a gorgeous old school theater with the big like curtains and all that stuff. And the other one was like a mom and pop that had like that 80s separation. Somebody pointed this out on Twitter that when you used to go to the movies in the 80s, there were these long, dark hallways and they just had the little chambers. Like it wasn't this wide open, colorful space like it is now with the
Hmm.
cineplexes. You know what I mean, Bisho? You
I
might
don't
not have
remember
known.
that.
Yeah, I remember it because I got that vibe, and they all smelled like some type of bug spray meets floor cleaner. Like it was just this very specific smell when you walked in there. And I saw a movie that I'd heard a lot about. Not, I don't know anyone who's seen it. We wanted to see something different, like something because that's what this theater was known for. It played a lot of foreign films. So I saw a movie called The Teacher's Lounge. It's a German film. It is one of the best foreign films of the year nominees. This was a fucking crazy movie. Not what I expected. I don't want to give it away, but it's basically a young teacher in a school in Germany um, accuses someone of stealing from her. Someone stealing like money from teachers and such. By the way, wait do you see how many Rotten Tomatoes score this is? Pull this up, Isha.
Holy
Look at
shit.
that. Yeah. Now the audience score is low. Critics love this movie. It's a critics movie. It's an acting performance movie. But I'll say this: it takes a very odd turn. So basically, there's a student who I believe is like Middle Eastern who they had accused wrongfully of stealing. So they set this kind of fucked up tone. And then a parent who works in the school, she catches on videotape possibly stealing from her, but it's not clear. And she accuses her of
Hmm.
it, and it sets this chain of events. But look at that Rotten Tomatoes critic score, 97% B show, but a
Yeah,
58.
84% on Metacritic. I mean, this is pretty
Yeah,
serious shit.
yeah, it's a performance film. It's a very slow moving film. Has kind of an odd ending, but I enjoyed it very much. My wife thought it was just okay. Chris Matthews is saying he saw Thanksgiving today on Netflix. It was pretty good for a modern slasher film. Yes, I was going to bring that up. It is now available on Netflix. If you haven't seen Eli Roth's Thanksgiving, we'll be talking about his Borderlands in the free show and the bonus show later. But I saw that B show, and then I also saw the movie that I think we had talked about with Shah early in the year, Past Lives. This is that A24 like romance kind of movie. It's a very New York movie for a movie based half in Korea. It's such a New York City movie. I loved this movie. I hand to God, I absolutely loved this movie. What is this score? Look at that.
Wow.
Yeah, this movie is a beast, man. And let me tell you something. I'm not even gonna be sure. I'm dead ass serious when I say this. I cried a couple of times. I actually was crying watching this movie. Like it affected me in a very serious way, man. Like I don't know that I ever said that on this show at all, honestly. But
Hmm.
like I've seen movies. You and I've talked about. We've been emotional at movies, whether it was
Yeah.
Godzilla or something. Like we've been emotional seeing something, right? But this really, like, I was watching this, man. This is no joke. No, Kevco. It's half subtitles. It's half of it is based in New York. So I don't want to give away too much about the movie, but we did talk about this. Remember, B show, we were talking about it with Shah that this was getting all of the attention, like,
Yeah,
right
this
around
this was the one big movie that had been nominated that none of us had
everything.
even really heard about.
Yeah, and it was nominated for everything. And it's still
Yeah.
nominated for a bunch of things. I will say this: any other year, you take out the Barbie phenomenon, the Oppenheimer phenomenon, the Martin Scorsese, sort of rediscovery of his greatness, in Killers of the Flower Moon. You take
Mhm.
all of that away, and if you just had this and Maestro, Bradley Cooper's Maestro on Netflix, these are the two best movies of the year. Absolutely,
Wow.
unequivocally. And I feel like they're both just getting steamrolled by this Oppenheimer machine. Rightfully so. Yeah, have you seen it yet, B Show? It is on Peacock now, I believe.
No, I saw it and I had about an hour and a half to watch something the other night, and I didn't want to get into it unless I could finish it.
Mm.
So I didn't watch it.
It would be tough to watch it in stages. I think you really should need to check it out, like, just to see if you really think it's as hyped as it is.
I want to. It's on one of my top, 2 or 3 movies to watch right now, and that like Iron Claw and then
Oh yeah,
Thanksgiving.
yeah. Now
But
you still haven't
it
seen
just was
Killers of
too
the
much
Flower
time.
Moon, right? You still haven't
I
seen
have
that.
not seen that either, but I don't know where that's streaming
It's on
at right now.
Apple. It's on Apple.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you can get an Apple for like the week and then just watch Killers of the Flower Moon. It's
Yeah.
totally worth it. There's some decent shit on there. But I will tell you this: I think it's going to win Best Original Screenplay, which I believe it's nominated for. And I think
Wow.
Greta Lee, any other year, the lead, uh, would have won Best Actress. She's that good. It's that good. It's believe the hype. It's not. It's probably not for everybody. The plot is. I'll just give a little bit of plot. The plot is she's a young girl in Korea. Her parents are like artists, and they're moving to Canada. Like they're listening to Leonard Cohen smoking cigarettes. Like the mother's
Oh,
an artist,
cool.
the father's a film director, right? And her and her sister are 13, and I think maybe they never say the other sister's age. And they find out they're moving to Canada. They're immigrating, and she has a best friend who's a boy that she's clearly in love with. Is clearly in love with her. The two parents let them have like this play date and discuss it, and like that they like kind of like that you could tell they really care about each other. And the mother says, "Hey, listen, we're leaving the fucking country." And the mother of the
Okay.
boy is like the light leaves her eyes because she knows what this means. She doesn't, she leaves. She goes to Canada. You fast forward 13, 14 years later, she's in her 20s. She's living in New York. And she talks to her mom, and her mom's like, "You'll never guess who hit me up on Facebook. Do you remember this boy? He was looking for you." And she changed her name to an American name, which a lot of Asian people do when they come to this country. A lot of foreign people do. They change their names when they come to
Right.
a new country. And they start talking, and you could tell they're falling in love. And then she just decides to not talk to him anymore because it's too distracting from her life and it's too distracting from his life.
Because she's
And
married, right?
no,
Has a
she's not
family.
married yet. She's not married yet.
Oh, okay, okay.
She then goes on a retreat. She gets married. She falls in love with this guy, this like Jewish writer guy who's played by the guy who played Silvio in the fucking Sopranos prequel. I swear to God, this guy Joe Merlotti, he's a good actor. And then another 13, 14 years go by or whatever. And then the guy finally is like, "Listen, I'm coming to America. Can I see you?" And she's like, "Yeah." And it's this interaction, this buildup of like a lifetime. And you don't know what the fuck's going to happen. And like, you think it's like, oh, it's a love story that maybe they're going to, but it's too real. Cause in real life, this woman's not going to leave. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and this guy's life has not really moved forward in the way that hers has. And it's painful, man. It's a fucking dope movie. I dead. I'm underselling how great this is. It's just one of those things that you don't know how you're going to react to it. And it's very indie. Like it feels like a New York indie film. You know what I mean? Like an old school independent, like a kind of movie Parker Posey would be in the 90s in New York. Like
Yeah.
that kind of a movie.
Yeah, I
Um,
like those kind of movies. I really want to see this now because,
oh my God,
like,
bro.
I remember when I watched Castaway as a kid, and that pales in comparison to probably what this is, even though it was good. And I remember at the end of Castaway, spoiler alert for a 25-year-old movie,
Yeah.
um, when he gets off the island and reunites with Helen Hunt, and you see them immediately just magnetic toward each other, and they
Yeah,
start
yeah,
kissing in the rain, and then she's just like, I got a family. I can't do
yeah.
this. I'm so sorry. And he's like, I just got off the island. I got nothing. Like, I got to completely start over. And it's so heartbreaking because
Right,
naturally you want them to reunite, but there's so much other real life complication. And that's real life. Like, it's not this
right,
fairy tale
exactly.
shit that you see in a lot of commercial movies. This is no, what really happens in real life when this shit happens. It's difficult and it's messy.
Yeah, I mean, because I feel like they loved each other, but for her, it wasn't like a romantic love. Like she had that in her life. I would really be, and it's heavy, man. Like the ending it's like you feel that shit, man. And it just, I don't know, it really, I was like really taken. I just wasn't prepared for it. I was like, whoa, what the fuck? You know what
Wow.
I mean? It was like, and I'm watching it with my wife, and like it's so like we're just so dialed in, and I'm so grateful to have that experience. Yeah, Joe Punches added to your list. About Schmidt is kind of like was a good, but that's comedy. Like that was actually considered like a comedy. This is not a comedy. This is like I want to say it's a drama, but it's worth the hype, and I think people would enjoy it if they got to check it out. And I'm very surprised with how much I enjoyed it. Honestly, I really, really am. I'm surprised with how good it was. A24, man, just knocked it out of the fucking park again. But we did want to talk a little bit about some of the things that were very big this week. Last week we talked about Madam Web and how it was projected to do poorly. B show, can we grab that box office?
I'm on my way.
It did not do great. There was some talk of some theaters that had to refund tickets. That was another thing that had happened. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I saw some memes that said I left my Madam Web tickets in my car, and someone broke in and left four more on my seat. It's like, oh shit,
So
that's not good.
basically, what happened was certain theaters, people were saying that theater chains were this is I don't know, I have no way of proving this is from this B show, but they were saying that there was a lot of pre-sales then had to get there were people were refunding them because the reviews were so bad.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about this gross B.
All right, so it grossed 28,000 domestically, 25,000 international, and
Million
does it
B.
show?
Million.
Oh,
Million.
million. Sorry, 28,000. That's fucking terrible.
What is this? Like what is this? Like Frankenhooker? Like what the fuck?
It went
It's
straight
not
to
that
Tubi.
it's not that bad, guys. It's not that bad.
Yeah, Bisha has to go back to elementary school.
25,000.
No, sorry, I read it real quick and was looking for the budget and I couldn't find it and threw myself off. But yeah, man, 54 million worldwide. Do you know what the budget was?
200 million? No, it was I don't think it was 200. I think it was like 90 to 100. Let's see if we can find that budget.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not 80 mil. Okay, it's never going to
80.
profit. Not even close. So you got to figure the public. What are we saying? B always like we're looking at about 150 in order to be profitable with the marketing and
Yeah,
distribution.
I've heard double the
I always say double,
budget, but
right?
yeah.
Right. So this would be lucky if it does. I mean, this weekend it's going to get destroyed. It's been out for a while. It'd be lucky if it pulls in another 10 mil. What you think we're being generous on the 10 global?
Yeah. I mean, if you're already hearing people returning their pre-order tickets, it's probably curtains
That's what
for
they
this
said
movie.
last week. Like it was, it's an odd thing. It look. This movie looks like it should have probably never been made. It's not a direct Marvel property because they have that licensing thing with Universal where it's like, Marvel adjacent or whatever the fuck they're saying, like the Spider-Man things and Venom and the upcoming Craven movie, which I think is not going to do well. I don't care what anybody says. I don't think the appetite is there for it. But unlike, say, a lot of other things, B, that I think people are just harsh with because they don't like, certain characteristics of it, this, by all accounts, is supposed to be a pretty rotten film with a terrible lead, bad dialogue, sloppy. People said the effects were sloppy. The ending is a disaster. Like people leaked the ending online to show people what the crescendo was, and it was just laughable. Um, why is this happening? Honestly, I just like wouldn't they just it's funny, they scraped that Batgirl movie over at Warner, which I guarantee you would probably be better than this and probably make just as much, if not more money, and it probably cost a similar budget. Like, why do you think Disney Marvel just will not capitulate and will just say, even if it sucks, we're gonna put it out and pretend. Like, it's kind of like, like a parent whose kid is setting the dog on fire, but it still thinks they're a good kid. You know what I mean?
Timmy, he's just going through a
Yeah,
phase
he's
right
just going
now.
through a phase, Bisha.
Um, a couple interesting things about this. Chris Matthews brings up the rumor is that Sony lied to Dakota Johnson about it being in the MCU, and
Mm.
Matt Smith said the same thing about Morbius. Um, and then someone else also said this might be so they don't lose the rights. They have to make movies every so
I think
often.
that's part of it too.
I mean, and that goes back to a movie franchise that you revisited this week, Hellraiser. There were some movies in the Hellraiser franchise, like the one with like the Good Value or the Aldi brand Doug Bradley that looks terrible. That was
Oh,
specifically made so that they
right.
wouldn't lose the rights. So that might be
Yes, that
part of
does
it.
happen. That does happen.
Yeah. I do have to mention something. I normally don't bring up YouTube comments like this, but we had, I thought, a pretty nuanced discussion about this last week, and we asked why they would even make this without Spider-Man. I think we went into why we were saying that, and someone on YouTube was like, "Don't you know about the deal with Sony? I can't believe you guys are so uninformed." It's like, yeah, we get it. We're saying, why would you bother if
Yeah,
you
why
can't
bother?
use Spider-Man? So it's
Like
like,
what? Yeah, what? Like there was, who Artie Lang is.
yeah.
Yeah, Artie Lang made a movie called Beer League, and it did. I love Beer League. Ralph Macchio is the star, and I remember when it came out, somebody on the Stearns show said only a heroin addict would make a movie with Ralph Macchio and not have him do fucking karate in it. And I remember that line from 20 something years ago. But it's true. Like, no one, like, okay, Venom can stand on its own. Clearly, Venom can stand on his own, right?
Yeah.
That's about it, right? Like, you can't tell me I'm going to make a movie about Electro, but Spider-Man's not in it. I'm going to be like, oh, Jesus, really? Hey, we're going to have a Green Goblin movie, but guess who the villain is? A police captain who's really on to Norman Osborn. It's like, and the villain was so weak. Like, it was just a very weak villain.
I've
And,
heard that, yeah.
and Dakota Johnson's a shitty actress. I'm sorry. She's just not a good enough actress to pull this off. And they basically used Sydney Sweeney's left one and her right one to promote it. And, that was enough for some people. We did hear a rumor that a guy got caught jerking off in the theater. It was not substantiated that some dude was rubbing one out to Sydney Sweeney. It could be true. I don't think it's true. I don't know. I feel if it was, this would have been everywhere. Rich Dow was like another Artie Lang reference. Yeah, I love Artie Lang. Kevco says, who cast Sydney Sweeney and not once make her look attractive? Yeah, this is what I mean, you could see her nude in like so many things. Like, if you really want to see her nude, you don't need to see a bad Spider Girl version of it.
Right.
That being said, I wish it was a good movie. Bad comic properties are like bad anything else you like. Like a bad horror property or a bad wrestling pay-per-view, whatever. It's never good for the medium.
No, and I think you're right. You hit on something we kind of talked about last week. I think whoever it is, comic properties still have cachet, whether or
Yeah.
not they're on the downswing or whatever the whatever you want to say about them, good or bad. There's still cachet. They still get made. They still get attention. They still get marketing. So I think they're trying to pick up any comic properties they have and try to do something with them. But the issue is like you said, it's Madam Web. It's such a not even a secondary character
Oh my God.
as far as I know.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, Craven. Craven would be a great villain or second in a Spider-Man movie.
In a Spider-Man movie. Yeah,
Yes.
Kraven's Last Hunt. That's what all the comic nerds, that's what we all want to see. Anything other
Yeah.
than that, or the Secret Six or whatever, like the Sinister Six. Other than that, don't
Yeah, it
count.
would be like, hey, we're gonna make 6 great movies. One's gonna be about Dr. Octavius. One's gonna be about
Mysterio.
Electroshock,
Yeah,
whatever
what's
the name
about
is.
Mysterio, Shocker. Yeah. It's like, you didn't see the Sandman version? No, I didn't, Yeah, look, you could say that Marvel's dead, but we know it's not dead. It's never going to really be dead. The dead don't die. Marvel's not going to die.
No.
But they won't make the same money, and it's not going to get the same kid gloves, I think, from people in the media and from fans anymore because they feel a little let down. They're tired of these movies. They didn't like the most recent Thor. They didn't like the most recent Ant-Man. They didn't like they didn't like the most recent TV show. So it's like how many times are you going to do this before, we do something about it? But I will say this, all of this, as far as I'm concerned, gets wiped away with Deadpool. People will, I even if it's not that good, it's not even going to matter. That's the power of that franchise, and I think that's really, at the end of the day, I think maybe they know that. Like they know that we could put some stinkers in here, get maybe a tax write-off, don't lose the rights, whatever make more tertiary characters and make a more inclusive sort of a slate. And even if it doesn't make as much money and people are fucking throwing shit at us, it doesn't matter because we know we're going to pull a Deadpool. We have another Avengers movie we're planning. We have, Secret Wars we're going to do, that kind of thing. The Fantastic Four reboot, like I just feel like they have enough they have enough goodwill and they also have enough on the deck. You think that's fair?
Yeah, because like when shit's hot, you can make a stinker and people will forgive it. I mean, same goes for wrestling. It goes for any medium. If you got a genre that's really hot, you can have 2 or 3 stinkers come out, but as long as you still deliver on some of the core properties, the popularity is going to stay there.
Right.
And look, I'll be honest. I'll give it, maybe a devil's advocate side of things here. Maybe they're thinking, hey, we're going to throw out Madam Web. We're going to throw out this movie. We're going to try some different shit. We're going to see what sticks. Because back in, what did you say last week? Back in 2000 or 2002? Yeah, 2000. People were shitting on Spider-Man, saying the movie wasn't going to do well. And then it ended up being this huge phenomenon, and it's one of the most popular characters from comics now. Mm. So maybe they're thinking, hey, comics are popular. We got to wait on some of the other properties. Sony says, hey, we only have so many we can go with right now. We're licensing. Maybe they're throwing shit out and seeing what sticks. So for that, I give them kudos for that. But to expect it to have the same acceptance and recognition as Spider-Man or anything else like that, that's kind of foolhardy.
Yeah, I mean, and look, I haven't seen the film, so it's but for all intents and purposes, it's a piece of shit. I was tempted to go see it. I am not going to go see it, and I'll probably watch it when it ends up on cable in a few months. Joe Punches is convinced that Taylor Swift as Dazzler is a cameo in Deadpool Wolverine in one of the parallel, in one of the multiverses. That would be badass. I love Dazzler. I love the Deadpool franchise. I love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I am at the end of the day a comic apologist. Rich Dow was saying, I think it's tough because when you set a bar so high with X and you put out A, B, C, and D, and they don't live up to it, these movies get crucified. Fair or unfair, it's inconsequential. Jaded. Yeah, that's totally true. The same thing with the band, B-Show. Someone puts out an album you love, you think it's great, the follow-up isn't as good. Well, what do a lot of people do? They suck now, not going to listen to them anymore. But then the next album comes out, and guess what? Got a couple good songs on it, right? So a lot of people are pretending like they didn't throw them over the bus the first time. You know what I mean? I think we've all done that with a TV series or a group, right?
Yeah, and even with music, I've seen people like Green Day even and I don't Green Day's hot and cold with people. Some people love them, some people hate them.
They're super famous. They're
and people give them shit for
fame. I mean, they're incredibly successful. There's no way.
Yeah, but people give them shit because they put out Dookie and they went commercial and sold out. It's like, oh, you mean an artist tried something different? No, I wanted to make the same exact music every time. And then if they do that, it's like, oh man, they're stale. They haven't made anything new in 10 years. It's like, oh, what do you do? People, you don't really know what's going to work. I love how everyone tries to say, this is what works. This is the formula. This is what you need to do until Nirvana comes along. And then it's like, oh, well, now this is what you need to do.
Well, we're talking also a very different time in the music industry when, there was just streaming and you had to actually move records and you had to have a video and you had to go on the late night talk show and you had to do, you had to do a lot of things to be successful. One thing I think is interesting is that when you look at sort of this objectively, you get a mishmash of people, right? You have the diehard fans that are going to like no matter what happens. You have the sort of anti-fans, they're going to be the first people to shit on it because it's popular. And then you have the people who want to point out that they liked it before it was cool. This is a big pool, right? There's a lot going on there. I do think Deadpool is going to, even though it's not exclusively the Marvel project, right? It's not a Marvel studio. It's Sony, right? But it is Marvel, right? At the end of the day, because they're going to have all these characters in it. They're all under the same umbrella going forward. I think Marvel's going to clean themselves up organically. I do think a year and a half from now, people could be like, do you remember when we thought Madam Web and She-Hulk ruined the Marvel universe and all this other stuff? And now we have all this great stuff. I mean, that's the way it's going to be because, these things, this is a big machine. There's a lot of smart people that have billions of dollars at stake making it rain. This is just a very shitty time, for some of these projects, obviously. But I think they're going to clean themselves up for sure. B-Show, one thing I wanted to get to in the free, I just want to bring this up real quick because this is kind of relative. So a couple of days ago, Slayer, who broke up 5 years ago, said they were never playing again, never touring again, did a farewell tour, well received. Slayer, whether you like that style of music or not, enormous band. Like there's a pecking order. It starts with Metallica, and then right after that, it's probably Slayer, and then maybe
Pretty
like
much,
Slipknot. Yeah, Slipknot, that kind of stuff. And now Pantera's back. But it's like the big four, as they say in metal: Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax. That's been for 35 years. And now a lot of people think that big four needs to be revamped because of Slipknot and some of the Lamb of God, maybe some of these other bands, Pantera. But Slayer is Slayer. I mean, Slayer is an institution. They've done it all, right? Well, they're back together. They're headlining the Pride Fest in Chicago.
I
They're
saw
also
you put that up,
headlining, yeah, they're headlining another festival. Now, listen, me personally, I don't have a problem with this because as someone who's been around music and bands and people who have broken up 400 times and gotten back together and broken up 400 times, gotten back together, this is the business, okay? This is the entertainment business. This is what happens in the entertainment business. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But people really got upset about this. A lot of people felt like this is a cash grab that should have been beneath them. They have
Really?
millions of, oh my God, yeah. They're multimillionaires. Tom Araya is worth $14 million. Somebody would say, okay. I'm sure they have a lot of money. We'll never know what kind of money they really have, right? I don't know that it's not about money. But my opinion of this was they are part of an industry that is so terrible to their performers. There's no 401k. There's no health benefits. They happen to be on a side of the industry which is not open to the mainstream, as B-Show. They don't get to play the Super Bowl. Slayer's not exactly doing a fucking Wendy's commercial. It's a little hard. They had a harder road. Even the Metallica.
That would be amazing, though. That'd be amazing.
That would be amazing. They had a harder road than other people, right? Because of the style of music they played. As far as I'm concerned, they can do what they want. They've earned that right. They've been around for a long time. One of the original members is deceased, Jeff Hanneman. I have no problem with this. What's your opinion on this? Do you think they shouldn't do it because they don't need them? Like, regardless of what you think of the band, what is your reaction when you see stuff like this? Do you think it's business as usual? Do you think it hurts a legacy of an artist when they say they're not going to perform again and then you see them 5 years later going?
It's tough. Now, if they came out and they sold like a last tour as like this is the last time, like Ozzy a few months ago, I think said
And
he's
Kiss.
done. Kiss, yeah. Like now, Kiss is like, haven't they done several farewell tours
I
and come
believe
back?
so, yes.
Okay, so
I believe
fuck that. Like, let's leave them out of the equation.
But legends, and look, you got to give them they are who they are.
I don't like the idea of selling something, especially like if you inflate the prices and this is a once in a lifetime thing, so come be a part, buy the t-shirt, and then they get back together in 6 months. I don't like that aspect of it. I don't think it ruins your legacy because honestly, for all the people that say it's shitty, one, fucking get the payday. Like you said, it's a shitty fucking dick kicking business from what I've heard and been told. So if you can get a big payday, do it because no one's going to take care of you out of the kindness of their heart. Second, there's still going to be a mountain of people out there who still want to see them play anyway. For everyone that says, fuck you, this is a cash grab, it's like, well, you know what? We're going to play and people are going to enjoy it. So as long as it's not like Kiss, like every 5 years, like, oh, this is it. We're not playing any more tours anymore. So you need to come out and buy the commemorative dish set and put it on your wall like Elvis. Like, no, Gene Simmons is a different breed. So as long as it's not like that, then I'm cool with it. I don't care. Slayer's not one of my favorite bands, but I enjoy their music.
Yeah, they're
So
pretty awesome.
yeah, I mean, like if Iron Maiden came out and was like, "We're done, thank you everybody, come to the big show," and then 6 months later they're playing an extended tour, I'd be like, that's kind
The
of
40th Power Slave anniversary.
that's right.
Yeah.
Like I think there's ways you can get away with it, but overall, I don't give a shit about that. I don't think it's shitty. So no.
Yeah, I don't think it should. But my real world life, as you know, this is my real world life. Most of the people, me and my brothers are good friends with people doing some of the work for the Slayer tour. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
I can't, so I said in my real life, gospel life, that I was surprised by it, but I don't think it's a big deal because I think next to wrestling, professional musicians have the worst lifestyle next to professional wrestler. I don't give a fuck what you say. There is no worse lifestyle to commit yourself to other than touring musician, whether big or small, whether, other than a wrestler. I think these are the two most worst things you could do as far as your real life and your real health and your real mental health and your finances, Bisho. Because as you know from your brother that was trying to play and do stuff, this is not a love you back business.
No, and it's a like a money up front. You got to buy equipment or borrow equipment. You got to like find a way to get places because when you're trying to play gigs and get your name out there, I mean, you're taking a van to Philadelphia or Baltimore or wherever, and if you're not signed to a label, someone's not picking it up. And if someone's picking that up, guess what? It's going to come out of your pay down the road because we lent you that money, and not a
Yeah.
lot of people realize that up front.
Yeah.
So no, that's why I said get what you can because I've become very jaded on like wrestling and music and stuff like that because of the business and the way the industry operates. So anyone that can get paid and can make a living off of it, go for it. I'm happy for you. Yeah, no, I don't understand why. I think people get emotionally invested in the bands and it being the final one and being special.
Mm.
And I think they make a bigger deal out of it than the band may. So I think that's
Probably.
probably where some of it comes
Well,
from. But
we're seeing these parasocial relationships with wrestling, with comic books, with Marvel, with Disney, with Star Wars. I mean, look, look, Chris Matthews is saying, I love Slayer. Maiden Live is amazing. Slave Cheeks is saying, I'm retiring free. Yeah, I'm retiring free. Yeah, Chris Matthews, like, legit, go see him. But Rich Dow is saying, in profession where you go on the injured list and have to retire, you're allowed to come back whenever you want. It's a cash grab. Yeah, well, stuff costs money. Go kick rocks. If you don't like it, don't go. That's my thing. I just was surprised to see a lot of the musicians I knew be angry. That's all. Like, that surprised me. Like, that really, really rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm not the biggest Slayer fan. I've only saw them live one time, one fucking time, in like 40 years. And like, so I'm not their biggest cheerleader, but I get it. And I think, people, I think you could view it as a cash grab and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, it's an unforgiving business. Speaking of unforgiving businesses, B-Show, a couple of things were announced. I want to talk a little bit about this Warner Brothers potential merger in 2 months in light of the Paramount layoffs that just happened. Pretty crazy. So legally, Warner Brothers is allowed to merge in April. There was some legal mumbo jumbo that came out because there's a lot of speculation, B-Show, that we're going to see some serious changes in the media landscape when it comes to these movie studios very soon in the next financial quarter. And it's no surprise that they said April. That's Q2 for people like you and I. What do you make of all this talk about between the Paramount layoffs? Now you have this potential merger. Now you have certain companies taking over other companies' distribution rights for physical media. Major chains getting rid of physical media forever. What the fuck is going on?
I think the rush to streaming, in my uneducated, industry opinion, was like the gold rush of 49. It was just everyone was going for it because it's a new medium. That's the way everybody's moving. Netflix was making a ton of money and capturing market share. And then everyone wanted to have their own network. And again, also, there was a lot of strikes when it came to local cable channels carrying, Fox content.
Right.
So not only from a survival perspective as far as getting your stuff seen, but as far as getting into the new medium. And I think a lot of money was put into that. And initially there was a good return. But then they start paying, like Netflix is paying tons of money for fucking as far what I would consider like C-list comedians to have specials, and it's like, where is this
Yeah.
coming from? Uh, so I think part of it was a rush to get in, and I think everyone's in, and now they're evaluating the business model and saying, hey, we can't sustain this. So we're going to license content to places like Tubi because they'll pay us for the stuff because they want people to watch it and they can sell ads anyway. You're seeing, was it Peacock and Paramount may merge in the next couple months?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. They're saying Peacock, Paramount, Warner might merge with Paramount. They're talking things like merger, which, by the way, for people that don't know, if you haven't figured it out yet, there's going to be some layoffs in the springtime B show, because there's no way these mergers take place without dropping bodies, right?
Yeah, and that's usually, I don't want to say usually, but that's sometimes a telltale sign of a merger going to happen is they start trimming the fat. They start making the books look really good because now attorneys have to come in and do due diligence on the books and make sure everything's up to snuff. And one of the easiest ways for them to cut costs is obviously to cut labor. So it didn't surprise me as first you sent me the note that Paramount and Peacock might be merging.
Yeah.
Followed closely by the Paramount going to lay off people. And the other thing, too, is they had to eliminate a whole division, the Noggin preschool division, because of all
What
the
a
layoffs.
sad, yeah. What that was, yeah. We should tell people about that, because Noggin, for those of you who don't know, if you don't remember, Noggin was like a preschool network that's been around for a long time. I mean, I don't know, I know the name. I'm sure many of us have. If you say Noggin, you've seen the icon on your streaming services or whatnot. Did your kids watch Noggin?
Kind of. We did. I think we got rid of cable when my kids were little, so we would just watch stuff on demand. But no, it's like when I was a kid, you had Nick Jr., you had Nick Jr. in the daytime. That's when you had all the kids shows on. Nickelodeon came on about 3:00 when you got home from school. Nick at night, and then they added Noggin for kids who are in preschool who,
Right.
Maybe a little bit younger age. So kind of like what we were talking about earlier with people being pissed at Larry David and Elmo, that whole situation.
Right.
That age group of kids is probably watching Noggin. So, like Peppa Pig or trying to think of some of the other more educational shows. This would be essentially like getting rid of the PBS
that's a
morning
Paw
lineup.
Patrol. That's Paw Patrol and Peppa Pig. Those are two
Yeah.
enormous properties, global enormous properties. Worldwide properties that were probably first associated with Noggin through Nickelodeon, right? 10 years. Jesus.
Yeah, and I think they still have these shows on. Like my nephew's favorite show is Paw Patrol. He's gonna be fucking pissed.
Wow.
But,
and he's 27, right?
Yes, he is 27. My young spry nephew at 27.
He's 27. He loves Paw Patrol.
Yeah, and I think the thing that sucks about this too is, because honestly, you and I don't really give a shit about kids' content. But
Well, I
at
do
the end of the day,
for people that have kids.
right? Yes, but also they try to gear some of these towards education, and there's a lot of kids that are underserved that watch these shows, and this serves as a way to give them some education. So that to me is a drawback. Where, like I said, it'd be like getting rid of PBS, their morning block of shows that I used to watch when I was a kid, like Reading Rainbow. Got me into reading books. I love reading books because LeVar Burton made it look so fucking fun. Now that shit's not going to exist. And it is a casualty. Oh yeah, here we go. Paw Patrol, Peppa Pig, Blaze and the Monster Machines. Oh, my kids watch Bubble Guppies.
Dora the Explorer, Blue's Clues, B-Show. What? The
Yeah.
Backyardigans, Wonder Pets. What the fuck?
Those are staples for kids, man. Yeah. Some of the biggest.
My God, this is making me sad.
And it's so weird that these are some of the biggest kids show franchises, I guess, if you want to call them that, around. And what are they not going to make new content? And this is a direct casualty of mergers and shit.
Or
like
it's
that,
only
you know
going to be content on paid streaming channels. So
yeah.
I mean, that's really sad. I'm dead ass. I think that's super sad. I'm sorry. I still have tons, and I know you have young nieces and nephews too. I have a gajillion very young niece and nephew contingent in my family. That's really fucking sad. That you can't throw this channel on and have these very wholesome, nothing wrong with these programs at all. Lovely programs. I mean, I've never heard anyone take a shit on Paw Patrol or Peppa Pig. I'm sorry. And if you are, you're a weird person. Peppa Pig is not what it used to be. And I found Paw Patrol really to be a contingency of left-wing politics. Stop. No one's doing that. It's a show about dogs that save dogs in fucking police costumes.
Yeah, in
I
a world where kids are addicted, as Rich Dow says, to YouTube, it's nice to have just wholesome, fun shit for
ser-
kids to watch.
seriously, dude,
Yeah.
this is awful.
And when you bring in the fact that you mentioned that I didn't realize because I was reading through it quickly, that means that these shows that kids love are not going to be available for free, or at least as a cable package. You have to pay separately for them. So
Well,
now,
you'll be paying for it through, through other means. Yeah.
well, but it's like another level of class thing. And I know not, I want to get into politics, but like now think about that. So now, what if these kids' parents can't, like maybe they have Netflix or something else, but they don't want to add another streaming package because it's another $7 or $10 a month, and now the kids
One
can't
that.
watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, but like
Awful.
I think I saw
Awful.
$7.99.
$7.99.
Yeah, there's a subscription to Noggin at $7.99, but like now
right.
imagine you don't have access to these shows because
Yeah,
you already
it's
have
sad.
too many streaming things because they said streaming was going to be cheaper than cable, and now it's essentially you have a different cable subscription for every brand that you like. I mean,
Yeah, it's
kind
sad.
of sad.
It's kind of sad, and it's Joe Punches goes. Well, Mr. Rogers would be pissed about hearing this. Yeah, and Rich is saying these kids are only interested in YouTube. That is part of it, but preschool is not really a YouTube audience. That's not. Grade school, sure, high school, absolutely. And so forth. Preschool, I don't know. B show. Do you associate YouTube viewership with preschool?
There's a lot of young like kids that demo toys, or there's a really popular channel called Ryan's World that appeals to preschool
Oh,
age
the kid who
kids.
opens the boxes and shit.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and they do like imagination shit and go on adventures, but but still, Paw Patrol, Peppa Pig, those are still really
Blue's
big.
Clues.
Dora, Blue, yeah, and I think they just rebooted Blue's Clues like a year or two ago. So
They did. Yeah, they
yeah,
did. Yeah, it's a damn shame. Well, I mean, listen, it's a sign of the times. We don't know what these merges will be. I am really curious, B Show, to see what happens in Q2. I'm very, very concerned about layoffs. I know people tend on social media only to care about layoffs of like wrestlers that they like, but I don't think we're in any kind of shape financially as a country to start dropping layoffs again. That would be really ugly. I know it's an election year. We all know what's going to start happening soon. But let's reiterate one thing. We're going to just continue to talk about media here in terms of entertainment, and so you won't be getting any of that here, right, B?
thank God.
Thank God.
I'm gonna hear enough of it on my regular day that I want to tune out and I can't. So this will be a welcome escape from that.
Yeah, a welcome escape indeed. So another thing I wanted to bring up was announced today. Generationally, I don't know how much this means. I know this is a much younger audience, but we're coming up on the 30th anniversary of The Crow. There have been several Crow reboots, a TV show, bad direct-to-video. Edward Furlong was a Crow. Richard Mabius, I think, was a Crow. Vincent Perez was a Crow. But at the end of the day, there's only one Crow, and that is Sting. No, that is Brandon Lee. And the Brandon Lee Crow, movie, which is really a cult phenomenon, in part because the death of Brandon Lee while shooting the movie was so iconic, and because he is the son of Bruce Lee and what could have been, and the success of the movie and its, unbelievably strong soundtrack and cultural impact on people and comics and goth and all this stuff. They had a Crow reboot announced with Jason Momoa, which was scraped during COVID, and they have finished the reboot with the other Skarsgård, Bill Skarsgård. Now, this movie's coming out in June. That's also the 30th anniversary of the original. But my concern here, B Show, is unlike many other films, whether it's, I don't know, Deadpool or 3, or let's just say Beetlejuice, or, God only knows what else you could look at and point. We have not seen a poster, a teaser trailer, even an icon, a logo. The movie comes out in 5 months. 5 months, okay? And we got nothing. Absolutely nothing on this film. I consider that a huge, huge red flag. Other people don't. I wanted to get your guys' take on it. Obviously, Shah's not here. A property like this, cult figure, very popular today. There's people that have Crow tattoos that you see the silhouette of the character all the time. It's a meme. The soundtrack. There was the comic book, the James O'Barr comic book. I mean, The Crow is very popular property, regardless of how bad the reboots were and some of the other shit. Why? I mean, in any other scene or in any other genre, don't you think this is a colossal red flag?
Possibly. They could also be concerned that it's going to be compared immortally to the original, and they don't want all that bad press before people even know what it is or what it's going to be. Because there are going to be very vocal people that compare it and say, "Oh, it doesn't look like the same," and like, shut up. It's going to be a good movie. Just watch it. So, you mentioned Beetlejuice. There hasn't been anything released other than leaked set photos for Beetlejuice either.
We have a poster. It doesn't come out for a year and a half.
That's true. Oh, I thought it was coming out in October.
Okay, October. The poster came out in January.
Yeah, that's true.
We got a poster. We know the logo. We know what it's going to be called. We know everybody that's in it, right? We know that it's not even going to have. We know that it's going to have mostly practical effects. There's little things coming out about it all the time. Shit, we had pictures of Deadpool and Wolverine a year ago in a fucking desert. Like we knew Wolverine was in the yellow costume, for fuck's sake.
That's a good point.
Like we don't have anything. We don't have nothing.
And you would think that if the movie is like 4 months away, what is it? 4 months? 5 months?
5 months.
We're in February, so
it's
4 or 5 months
March
away.
Next week, yo. It's March next week. The movie comes out in June. So.
Yeah. So if the movie comes out in June, you think that you would have seen like a Super Bowl ad, or you would have start seeing stuff by now, and there's been nothing. So I see that. I was trying to give the devil's advocate, but you're making too good a point.
It bothers me. It's a $50 million movie. They shot it overseas. Danny Houston is the villain. I'm excited about that. If you don't know who Danny Houston is, he's the son of John Houston. He was the main vampire in 30 Days a Night who says God, no God.
How do you spell it?
Danny Houston, Huston. Yeah, the release date. I'm trying to find the release date. June 7th.
Okay.
That's 4 months. That's almost 4 months. I haven't seen a trailer for a movie coming out in 4 months.
No,
I've been seeing that Dune 2 trailer for a year in movie theaters.
That's right.
A year I've seen that Dune 2 movie theater. And they shot this a year ago. This has been in the can a year ago. I don't know.
They might be letting themselves rest on the laurels of the name and the anticipation, but that might be a big mistake because you're not giving people anything. People might forget about it.
You recognize this guy, B? He's got a great voice. He's always a villain.
Not really.
Do you remember 50 Days a Night?
Yeah.
The guy who goes, God, no God. That's him.
I'm confusing him with like Udo Kier, and I know he's a lot older.
Well, he's a lot younger, I think, than Udo Kier. Udo Kier's probably 70s. He's been in a lot of horror movies. He does a lot. He's a villain in a lot of things. I've seen him as a villain in almost everything. So some people in the chat, here's what they're saying. Joe Punches is here for the Crow Talk. Joe Punches, as the cult following is passionate about the movie, which I'm a part of. Richard Dow says he looks like Steve Buscemi if he smiled. Joe Punches is saying, my guess is they're keeping it close to the chest and then they'll blow it up once it gets a press release. Chris Matthews is saying they should have stopped it after the first one. I know, like, generationally, like The Crow is a snapshot in like grunge time, like in that 90s Generation X time. You know what I mean? And it's a very significant thing to a lot of people. And there's a lot of younger people. I don't mean to diss. There's mad younger people who love The Crow, who love, that just, dude, I see people post shit about The Crow all the time. And don't forget, I'm at horror cons and comic cons. There's Crow shit everywhere, dude. You would never know this is a 30-year-old property. It is the 30th anniversary. That's really wild to me. I saw that movie with a Gumar actually, but that's another story maybe for the Patreon. But I'm nervous about it. I think something that popular, that's been around this long, regardless of the shitty history of most of it, you would think they'd do something. You would think you'd see a poster. That's all. We don't even know what he looks like as the character, B-Show.
See, I'm fine with that. Like if there was posters or teasers or information, I'd be fine with that if they were keeping his look mysterious, just so it's not compared and doesn't get that bad shit. But like, nothing.
0.0. Chris Matthews is saying that soundtrack, the imagery in that film, the performance of Brandon Lee, you cannot top it. Yeah, it really is. So, I have this memory, guys. MTV News from me in the 90s. That was all I got. That's my news. That's the only news I watched was MTV News. So you had videos for, I don't know if people remember this, but you had videos for about 55 minutes. And then they would have 5 minutes of news, like MTV News. You hear it first. And Kurt Loder or Tabitha Sarn would come out, or John Norris, and they would talk about entertainment news for like 5 minutes: music, movies, television, that kind of shit, right? Occasional politics, but generally that's what it was. And they had a show called, I guess it was MTV movie, like a guy from guy named Chris something used to have the movie show. I don't know. Do you remember what their movie show was called? Because they had the movie awards, but they had their MTV movie show, whatever the fuck it was. They had Ernie Hudson doing the press by himself. Poor Ernie Hudson.
God bless Ernie Hudson.
I mean, I love Ernie Hudson even to this day. I see Ernie Hudson, I get happy. Ernie Hudson had to sit there and do the press junkets by himself for The Crow. And it was just the saddest. I mean, like Brandon Lee looked like this rock star sex god. He looked like he was built for the 90s. He's the son of Bruce Lee. He's a good-looking, in-shape actor playing a dead rock guy, cult, like demon fucking ghost at the grunge hype of the world, when grunge is the world. This dude could have fucking taken over the world from this thing. And there's Ernie Hudson having to talk about him in past tense, just broken, beaten, talking about what a wonderful man he was, how this is heartbreaking for him. And I'm like, why really connecting with this? Because I was like, because the movie's about a dead rock star, like who gets killed, like, and he got killed playing the dead rock star, gets killed. I mean, you can't be sure, like, you can't even, like, if this happened today, this would be the talk of everything. This would be on every social media channel. You wouldn't be able to go anywhere without it being on every news story. Nothing like this had really happened before.
No, and in fact, when you add the additional layer of the mysterious death, and he was the son of a guy who people have
Legend.
speculated over Bruce Lee's death for years. So it added to the lore. And I know we may talk about it, we may not have time, but it was almost like the Blair Witch Project, where it was almost like a meta. There was an additional layer of attention given to this, and it was extra special because of that. So
because of that,
Question to you though. Do you think and I know the performances, music, everything culturally, it was significant. I mean, it's one of those movies where even if you've never watched, you know what The Crow is.
Yeah, of course.
Do you think it would have had that type of staying power?
Yeah.
If Brandon Lee was alive?
Yeah, because he was hot shit. Dude, he was like a sex god to people, like in that Jim Morrison way, right? Like, like I remember as a kid, Jim Morrison was on the cover of the Doors and saying, he's hot, he's sexy, he's famous, he's dead. Like there was this allure. And also we're talking about the grunge era, right?
True.
Like the misanthropic, Generation X, we got nothing to live for, heroin chic, AIDS generation, the cloud of AIDS over all your sex. People are fighting for gay rights. They're fighting for equal rights. We're fighting for equality and ending apartheid and Tibet. This is all coalescing around this generation. And here's this super good looking dude who's the son of Bruce fucking Lee. Like, what boy? Like, even my generation, Bruce Lee is the legend of legends, man. Legend. There's Bruce Lee, the cool factor. Bruce Lee is somewhere up here. Like, we're still trying to figure out. So when you throw that in, he's this, biracial, only son of a dead Bruce Lee, who's in shape, who could, he's got some physicality to him. Didn't do much. He only did a couple of bad indie movies, so he wasn't overexposed.
Laser Mission.
He wasn't overexposed. He would have been like he was built for the 90s. He had that 90s long hair, but not really long hair. Like it was like this look, Oh my God. Yeah, Chris Matt said he would have broken out. Like he would have been like everywhere. I really believe that because the movie was successful. You're never going to know if it was because of his death. We're never going to know, but also that soundtrack, the time period, his name. I mean, dude, I was at that movie theater and it was mostly chicks and a lot of them were crying and it was good looking, young 20 somethings, teenage girls drooling over Brandon Lee, just drooling over him. Like, and he was portrayed that way, like as this heartthrobby, aloof 90s, here's my hair, I'm in a band, but I'm really sensitive and I'm good to everybody. He
almost
was
like Johnny Depp in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, but without that trajectory because he was dead. Like he was already dead. And it was just like it was just so miserable. In a way, you know who Jeff Buckley is, right?
Yeah.
You know the way like Jeff Buckley's Hallelujah became like the 9/11 anthem of the country, right? In a
Hmm.
lot of ways, and it will be around forever. But Jeff Buckley didn't really become famous till he drowned in the Mississippi. Nobody like Jeff Buckley was playing small. He was opening for Juliana Hatfield. Like I was supposed to see him at a small club that holds 800 people. I think it's called the Academy in New York City. He was opening for the Juliana Hatfield 3. Most people don't even know the fuck Juliana Hatfield is, but that's what he was. He was an opening act. He was somebody who played small theaters and diner theaters and stuff like that. Then he drowns in the Mississippi, and now he's this legend of legends of all time. Similar trajectory. Always reminded me of Brandon Lee in a lot of ways. This sort of like mythology behind these people who were not famous in life, but who are famous in death. So I just hope this movie doesn't hurt that legacy. I'm very concerned it's going to be too modern. A lot of bad soundtracky people trying to recreate the original soundtrack. But let's see what happens. I'm cautiously optimistic in my old age, B show. Before we head over to the Patreon, because we have a ton of stuff, I did want to talk about this a little bit. You mentioned the Blair Witch thing, and I thought this was interesting. Is Blair Witch a 30th anniversary?
Um, Close. 1999.
Okay,
What's that? 25 years?
25. Okay, big
Yeah.
anniversary. So someone had put this. Do you have that tweet I sent you? Or do you have it like somewhere? Someone had put about the cultural impact of Blair Witch,
Yeah. Let me try to
right?
find it while you talk.
Like in a roundabout way, I'm paraphrasing this, but somebody had posted on Twitter in a horror group that, people today will never understand that half the people that saw Blair Witch when it came out thought it was real. And they did such an impressive job marketing this. And my brother Mike interned at Sony at the time, Columbia, and he got a copy of it and brought it home and was telling me and my father it was real. And we watched it. My father was the only person I knew that was saying it wasn't real at the time. We believed it was real. What is this? It was a creepy.org. What are they saying there?
Yeah, creepy.org. He says lots of people. This is great too to add to it. Lots of people who weren't there at the time are arguing online that nobody who saw the Blair Witch Project the year it came out believed it was real. That's wrong. Many people did.
Absolutely. And I will say this unequivocally. I thought it was real. Everyone I knew thought it was real. You found out organically over time it wasn't real. And the big thing for me was shortly after it became a phenomenon, the third banana dude who died standing in the corner did the Fangoria Con, was headlined Fangoria, and came out and was like, see, I'm not dead, ha ha, ha, like that. And it was maybe like 6 months. They did a Fangoria in Brooklyn. They did a couple in downtown Brooklyn. Um, B show, I will tell you unequivocally, everyone thought this was real. There was no internet to debate it. You debated it at the job, you debated it in your house, you debated it at the movie theater. This is a very long time ago. Do you believe that was the case? Are you I mean, because this is obviously a much older movie for you too.
Oh yeah, everybody thought it was real. I remember. Let's see. People were still debating it, even though they'd come out and said it wasn't real. People still debated it when it was out on home video. So
Yeah.
that gives you an idea. Like 6, 9 months later, that people still thought it was legit. And I'll say this, man. When they did the Fangoria thing, I didn't know about that, but I did know because I
It's
was
like 6 months
watching.
later, maybe a little more than that.
Yeah, but I was watching MTV at the time when I was a kid. I was watching it after school, and they went on Total Request Live, and the creators who acted in it did an interview with Carson Daly. And they came out and admitted, no, it wasn't a snuff film. It's not real. We set it up.
Well, the
And
actors didn't create it. There were two guys who directed it, and then the three principals. They were
okay,
actors.
sorry.
Yeah.
That,
I think
I've
they're all
got that
friends.
backwards.
I think that's how they got the job. But
Yeah, but at the same time, they came out and actually admitted, no, this is a film. It's not a snuff film. And I
right.
remember the interest dropping off almost overnight. When that
People
happened.
were disappointed that they
Yeah.
didn't see someone died.
So not only did everyone think it was real, or at least suspect it could be real, but that was a lot of the allure of the movie. And if you go back and watch it now, it's interesting and it's fun to watch, but it doesn't have that same cachet when you know
No.
it's not legit.
No, it really doesn't. And I know it's difficult. Like, look, I could totally get a 25-year-old going, there's no way no one believed that. I I'm not shitting on anybody for that opinion, but to completely be in denial that 25 years ago, without most people did not have the internet. There was certainly not a lot, it was not widespread. And your only conversation around these things was in person and, or, at work or, at the gym or hanging out with your friends, sitting around going, no, it's not real. All right, who here thinks it's real? It was a cultural phenomenon. And it's just so funny how there's so many people walking around going now that that could not have happened because their whole life they've had access to information at their fingertips. Their whole life they've been able to prove or disprove anything. They could literally just go to Alexa and ask Alexa if Blair Witch is real, and that's the end of the conversation. Um, I thought that was an interesting topic. I really did because, again, I'm also not one of these people. Be show. If a 20-year-old thinks that that's total horseshit and made up, I understand why you would feel that way. But you can't be in complete denial that something that happened when you were 5 or before you were born was believed to be real, literally because of the lack of other information, Bisho, because you didn't have a way to disprove it. You know what I mean?
And it was actually, you mentioned the internet, in the AOL days, in the early days of the internet, it was one of the first, maybe the first viral internet movie sensations. Because before the movie came out, they had a web page that was just like blairwitch.com or something like that.
Like a fake web page.
Yeah. And when people went to it, they had it was almost like a page, a random page, nothing spectacular, had the lore of the Blair Witch and almost like not a news story, but like almost an article detailing what happened to these people that got lost in the woods, as if it was a legit site. So I remember going to it with like, holy shit, this must be real. So it is interesting to see 25 years later how the internet has come around so much, where before there wasn't enough information and you could get away with that type of shit. Now, right, within seconds, you can disprove or prove whether something's legit. So, I understand if people are being indignant and going, oh, there's no fucking way people believe this shit.
Oh, yeah, people are completely indignant.
I can understand why people are like, oh, fuck off. But that'd be like me going back and saying, oh, there's no way people actually thought the not Blair Witch, The Exorcist. Like, there's no way people were really up in arms about that movie. Come on, it was clearly just a movie and not a big deal. The times were different, man. People took that shit very seriously.
Very seriously. Very seriously. And look, if you want to control a population, you limit the information, right? I mean, and I have to tell you, I'd wish my brother was on, because I don't know how much of this he remembers. The marketing campaign behind Blair Witch was unlike nothing anyone had ever seen before. I mean, they did not break kayfabe for a very, very, very long time. And it was wildly successful as a result of it. But it's a fun thing to look back at now, that time period when there was this low information, with low access to the information and what you can get away with. It kind of makes you think, Bisho, some of the things that have happened in the last few years, what kind of marketing campaigns we could have had if we didn't have the internet for some of these modern horror movies.
Could you mention
I'm sorry, Cloverfield. Yeah, I was just thinking like Cloverfield, some of the Bigfoot, small market movies or something like that.
Even Signs. I know Signs came out around that same time, and that could have had a viral campaign.
Oh my God, yeah. Like any of the found footage phenomena, like that. That's the boilerplate of found footage.
Yeah,
is that film crazy?
House LLC with the creepy clowns and shit. That
my God, yeah. We didn't have access to disprove that, and and the only web page was something that said it was real. The web page was the 3 people missing. That was the web page for Blair Witch. It was their missing posters with their kayfabe names and shit. Chris Matthews' Blair Witch Project was so insane. Kevco TV, I was 14. That shit was real. Chris Matthews, it wasn't until the actor started appearing in public. Backwards Baron Corbin is joining in to say hello. Mr. Isaacs is joining in to say what's up. Good evening, Mr. Isaacs. We had an early start. Joe Punch is saying Orson Welles' Blair Witch gave me something new, like when it seemed real. Like that reading of, what is it? The famous radio broadcast.
It's not War of the Worlds, is it?
War of the Worlds, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, what people literally thought, because they didn't have any information to tell them that the White House wasn't being taken over by aliens. What did you expect them to think? And Backwards Baron Corbin is saying it made $250 million in 94.
Good for them.
Oh my God. Oh, I think that cost like 30 grand. It might have cost. Can we just look, B? I gotta know what that cost. It couldn't have cost much.
60,000.
Oh my God. So it made 250 million on 60,000. This is like Avengers Endgame profitability. Really?
Yeah, 200,
60K?
248 million, 60,000 budget. This is the original Paranormal Activity.
What you mean by the original paranormal? You mean prior to Paranormal Activity?
Meaning found footage made for nothing,
Found
made a
footage.
shitload of money. Yep, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, 35,000 to 60,000. Final cost of 200 to 750 after post. So it only needed to clear 750 to turn a profit, and it did 200.
Okay, so this is one of those. This is one of those. Was it mariachi or whatever it is, where they say
El
movies made for
Mariachi.
7,000?
El
Yeah.
Mariachi, Robert Rodriguez. Yeah. Yeah. Well, because he did everything himself and he didn't pay anybody. So it was like, by the way, I watched Clerks the other day. Clerks just randomly came on and I watched half of it. And it's so funny to watch it now because I still have a lot of affection for that. And it's funny that all of these things happened in the same 2-3 year span. Notice that in the 90s. But one thing I noticed that's hard to watch with the Clerks now is the acting is not only so terrible, they are clearly struggling to remember these lines because they're saying them really fast. And they're saying them really fast is because they don't want to forget the lines.
Yep.
Like everything is done really like this, Dante, because I'll tell you right now, Dante, because I don't want to forget the lines. What do you mean I don't like this? That's why I do this. Because they didn't want to forget the lines because they were so unfamiliar with this level of dialogue where it's like, but you hate people, but I love parties. Why do you hate people? But I love parties. And it's like, yes, that's what you do when you don't know how to memorize lines. It's fucking wild, dude.
Good call.
When was the last time you saw it?
Maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
It still holds up. It's got the jokes are great. If he could have got like real actors in it, that would have been a beast. But it would have lost its charm. Like it would have had no charm to it. But it's just so funny, and it's also black and white. Like it's a black and white movie.
I tried to watch the color version. It's not the same.
I
It doesn't
can't
have
watch.
the same charm.
I don't want to see the color version. I would never want to see the color version. But we have a shit ton to get through in our Patreon show coming up, so we're going to be heading out. So let's get our plugs out. Let's plug Deathmatch Outlaws, the Drew Yari Show, Cassette Classics 86 on YouTube, the Down Under Thundercast, and of course, the return of Don, Tony, and Kevin Castile. It's Castle. Kevin Castle.
Bob Fresca.
Don Fresca. And the Necromaniacs podcast. You want to be checking them out every week as well. The Inhuman Experience podcast, and of course, Ringside is Wrestling on YouTube are back. Mojo and Dirk's Most Dastardly Show, The Garden of Doom. And then we have Off the Mat and the Old Guy Metalcast and our good friend Ronald Anderson's clothing company, funkbetty.com. MJW Games, Cherry Jesus on YouTube and his band Kaiser. My good buddy Red River Podcast Sam over there, he just had a birthday and I just did a show with him talking about music and a couple of other things. You want to check out the Red River Podcast? I just did it a couple of weeks ago. And then, of course, his band Playing Dead, always putting out the hits there. Bayou Geeks, that's the Fateh 316. You had a good time with Mr. Fatty, didn't you?
That was great. Yeah, they put that up, I think, 2 weeks ago or last weekend. We talked about a lot of stuff. I gave some of the background to those guys about the Vince thing because they were on the fence and
yeah, I told
sides.
you, dude. You're stuck to this now. Like we'll talk about it later. You can't. How could you not do it? Like it's just. What are you
every time? Every time I got to go through these like court complaints and depositions, it's so fucking miserable.
But it's like a real thing. Like it's like a living, breathing thing. But we'll talk about that on the Patreon there. But actually, before we wrap up, I'll get to that. But we also have the High Marks Podcast, Midnight Mass Creature Cast, the Weekly Detour, Anthony Allison and Teddy, the Guns and Geeks Podcast, and of course, you want to be subscribing to Planet Mondo for Shaheen. Give him a like there. And B Show, anything on the B Show Brian channel?
No, I've been really busy, and I've been focusing more with us with putting clips of episodes on YouTube. So check that out. I think I usually put up 2 to 4 good segments after the shows. So look for those throughout the week. Subscribe to bshowbrian.com.
Yes, and of course, B Show Brian is going to. I believe he's going to continue as part of the Patreon series as news develops, as long as there's developing news and he has the time to do it, to continue to follow this on the Patreon show, the additional Patreon show. You have so many extra Patreon shows at this point, but we'll also have the Q&A. The link is up, so get your questions in there for the Patreon, and please consider subscribing. It's just $5 a month. You get over 1,000 hours of content, exclusive content, shows that are not aired anywhere else. They're just for you and the cool people and the cool cats hanging out in the Patreon. And of course, you want to go to patreon.com/Spitball Media. We're going to see you guys next week. We're going to head over to Patreon. And thanks for checking us out.
See you guys.